What's up, Raptors fans? Welcome to the Warriors Report. It's time to talk about the Raptors and the playoffs. Now, there are still a decent amount of games left, and a lot of shuffling could happen in the Eastern Conference. As it currently stands, the Raptors seems like they're destined to stick at that seventh spot, and we want to avoid the play-in, but it just seems like the Raptors just can't get out of the seventh spot. So I'm going to talk about today's video. I want to talk about three opponents, three teams the Raptors should absolutely avoid playing in the playoffs. Now, shout out to Luca Rosano, who dropped a similar video highlighting different matchups for the Raptors. So definitely check him out. I've been meaning to drop this video for a while. I just wanted to get closer to the playoffs before dropping this video. So if you guys are ready to watch this video, make sure to hit the like button. If you want to hit the subscribe button, that'd be awesome as well. So with that being said, let's get into today's video. Now, as you guys know, I do like to give out shout outs on this channel. And for today's video, the shout out goes out to Sher Khan. So Sher Khan, thank you so much for supporting this channel through your likes and comments. It is very much appreciated. Now let's talk about team number one. The Raptors should absolutely avoid playing. And these aren't teams in order. These are just teams in general I want the Raptors to avoid. So the first team I want to talk about is a team that has been on absolute fire since the All-Star break and one of the best defensive teams in the league, and that is the Boston Celtics. Now there are several reasons why I want to avoid the Boston Celtics altogether. I'll highlight each reason why I want the Raptors to avoid this team, the Boston Celtics. Let's talk about reason number one. When you take a look at teams in the Eastern Conference, what team really stands out in terms of having really strong defensive guard? That is the Boston Celtics. Jaylen Brown and Marcus Smart are really good defensive guards I want no part of. I mean, not only does Marcus Smart really frustrate me with, I can say this as an NBA fan and not as a Raptors fan, but with his flopping, it's just so frustrating to watch. But he is also a really good defensive player as well. And you have to give props where it's due. And obviously, Jaylen Brown is capable of guarding multiple positions. We saw that in last playoff series. He was guarding Pascal Siakam. He can guard the small forward position as well. So personally, I just think they have a lot of good defensive guard play, and I just don't want any part of that. Now, reason number two, as I talked about, one of the best defensive teams in the entire NBA. When you take a look at these stats right in front of you here, you take a look at the Celtics and where they're holding their opponents in terms of field goal percentage. They're one of the best teams in the NBA at holding their opponent's field goal percentage. And given the fact that the Raptors really struggle to produce points, I don't know if I want to face the Celtics, not only in field goal percentage, but the Boston Celtics, are also really good at holding their opponents from three-point field goal percentage as well. And personally, again, if we're not getting our points from our three-point field goal percentage, the Raptors are really going to struggle. We've seen that when guys like Fred VanVleet, OG Anunoby, and Gary Trent have been out for the Raptors. But also because, let's move on to reason number three here, is the fact, like I highlighted, the Boston Celtics have a lot of good defensive guard play. They also have a lot of good defensive front court players as well. Jason Tatum is no slouch when it comes to defensive players, but also Robert Williams is a very frustrating player because the fact that he is a shot blocker, he may be an undersized center, but he is a very athletic big man who can block shots and just really get up there for boards. And I think the Raptors are going to struggle. If the Raptors are struggling to hit their three-point shots against the Celtics, how are they going to score points? Because you have Robert Williams just blocking everything. And we know Pascal and Scotty Barnes get their points in the paint, but for the majority of their points do come from the paint. I know they're capable of hitting three-point shots, but again, it's going to be a really tough series for the Boston Celtics, or I should say the Toronto Raptors. But either way, it's going to be a very competitive series, but I don't want to do anything with the Boston Celtics. They've been on an absolute fire since the All-Star break. Jason Tatum is a player, as much as I may hate to admit this, he is one of the most challenging players you have to guard, and you can throw different bodies at him, different defensive schemes. You just cannot shut him down. Maybe you're able to shut him down for one game. Next game, he'll drop 30. He's just a very versatile offensive player. He gets his points through jump shots, three-point shooting, attacking the basket, fadeaways. He's got everything in his arsenal in terms of offensive scheme. So that is not one reason. Those are several reasons why I want to avoid the Celtics altogether. I know fans will say we've beaten them in the regular season, but I just want no part of Boston Celtics. No part of Boston Celtics. Yes, it may be potential, Pascal Siakam's revenge series. We know he really struggled against the Celtics last time around, but I want no part of Boston Celtics. Now let's move on to team number two, who I think the Raptors should avoid. Now, this team may come as a little bit of a surprise, given the fact that the Raptors just beat them recently. And yes, that is the Philadelphia 76ers. Although the Raptors have done a fairly great job, I should say, not even a good job, but great job of defending Joel Embiid, not only in that playoff series we faced him in during our championship run, but just in general, even during the regular season. And Joel Embiid has gone on to say it's just so hard to play against the Raptors because they throw different defensive schemes at you. And they obviously did a really good job again. The last time they faced the 76ers as well. So I think it just becomes a really difficult matchup because obviously the Raptors don't have a center. I know people will point to that matchup saying that we did a good job on Joel Embiid, and that may be the case, but they also do have James Harden, who definitely struggled shooting wise, anyways, that game as well. But take this into consideration when we're facing the 76ers. They have two players that are very, very capable of getting 10 plus free throws a game. And the reason I say this is because the Raptors roster is built on our starting five and a few bench pieces. So if one of our five or even a couple of our starting five get into foul trouble because James Harden is flopping and Joel Embiid is flailing his arms everywhere, we know the referees will definitely give them the benefit of the doubt. It puts the Raptors in a lot of trouble. And that is one of the reasons I want to avoid the 76ers, because James Harden, for all of the criticism he has received throughout the years regarding his playoff performances, he's still going to get his baskets. And Joel Embiid is a very talented player as well. So personally, I'm not very big on facing the 76ers. I want to avoid them altogether. So that is my team number 2. And team number 3 is actually one, believe it or not, who I think are one of the most dangerous teams heading into the playoffs. And that is the Brooklyn Nets. Now, I know it may sound funny because they are 8th place, but we know all of their funny situations they have had this season. I'm not going to go too much into it. Kyrie, the James Harden situation, his injuries, and everything that has surrounded them. And yes, we know Kyrie Irving may not play in that potential game versus the Raptors in Canada. We don't know what's going on with the vaccination statuses in Canada and the restrictions, but still, if it comes to a play-in team, and I just want to avoid the Nets altogether. Kevin Durant, I talked about Jason Tatum being one of the most challenging players to guard offensively. Kevin Durant is a player I want no part of. Absolutely no part of. Even if it's for a one-game play-in, I want to avoid the Nets at all costs. I just don't want anything to do with the Nets. I think they're a very talented team. Kevin Durant can drop 50 and easily will the Nets to a victory against the, I should say, the Raptors. So personally, those are my personal 3 teams I want to avoid. I know some people may suggest some other teams, but what do you guys think of these 3 teams? Do you think some of these teams I have listed are teams that the Raptors could potentially beat? Do you see other teams the Raptors should avoid in the playoffs? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. And as always, guys, I do have a trivia question for you guys this time around. And our trivia question is, how many regular season wins do the Raptors have all time? Is it A, 959? Is it B, 1022? Is it C, 1073? Or is it D, 1089? So whoever answers this trivia question correctly first in the comment section gets a shout out in my next video, guys. So thank you so much for watching. That will be it for today's video. Again, let me know your thoughts down below. And thank you so much for watching once again. And I hope you guys have yourselves a great day.